Welcome back to the Viking Central podcast. Just going to do a little bit of a free agency update for you guys today. Just, talking about some things that are going on. Not a whole lot of new news or anything like that, but at the same time, just got to, stay up to date on some of this stuff. I'm here with Austin per usual. How we doing, buddy?
Oh, doing really good. Just excited to see Harrison Smith back. That's great.
Yeah, for
Great
sure.
to see the legend back.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, all signs were pointing towards that direction, but now we got for sure news on it. New 1-year contract. Yeah, super exciting. Going to do great in that safety room because, we don't have Cam Bynum there anymore. It's going to kind of be interesting to see if they add another name on top of that. But before we do get into the video, I do want to shout out our sponsor. That's Stead Foods. Check out Stead Foods, a Minnesota-based candy company specialized in delicious chocolate bars. They have something for everyone, and of course, my personal favorite, caramel crack, will keep you coming back for more. It is just super delicious. Use code VC10 for 10% off and use the link on the screen or in the description. Again, use code VC10 for 10% off and use the link on the screen or in the description. I'll put that link at the bottom of the screen here as well. Just go over there, use code VC10, and you get 10% off. All right, let's stay on the Harrison Smith topic here a little bit. 1-year deal, I think it was like $10.25 million with like the max.
Yeah, it's like per game incentives and then performance incentives.
Yep, that can get all the way up to like $14 million.
Yeah.
So, for a legend like that, A+ locker room guy. I have no problem with that contract. He's just, even off the football field and in the locker room, he just makes that much more of a difference just having him on that defense, communication purposes and everything like that. Going to be really, really good. I guess your initial thoughts, do you think he still has a lot left in the tank? Is this going to be his final year? What's kind of your thoughts on this new 1-year deal for Hitman?
Yeah, they've been sticking with these 1-year deals. I think it's kind of on both ends. I don't think Harrison wants to play at a poor level, and I think he knows that he can still perform. Last year, he didn't really fall off. Really, he was all there. He was always around the ball, still making the plays. A lot of TFLs. He I think is just gonna keep taking this year by year. As long as with the team, because I also don't think he wants to play anywhere else. I just think Harrison Smith is a great guy to be around this team, be around all the young guys in the locker room.
Yeah, he's a Viking at heart, and you can just tell that 14th season now coming up for Harrison Smith. Just Vikings legend. I'm sure he'll be in the Ring of Honor. Should be in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully they make that happen. But yeah, I agree. He's a guy that's sorely needed on this defense, and I think they're going to add another safety. I don't think they want to put too much on his plate because he is getting up there in age, but he's still really good if they put him up in the box, send him on blitzes. Like you said, still can make plays in the backfield, TFLs and everything like that. He's losing a little bit of his top end speed, and that comes with age. That's what it is. But he's still a very effective player for Brian Flores, just another chess piece to this defense. And just happy to have Harrison Smith back. This is like pretty much the only new news that we got yesterday, but it was a big one because he's just beloved in Minnesota for sure. All right, moving on to Cooper Kupp. Diana Rossini from The Athletic reported this morning that he has interest from the Vikings, one of 4 teams. I think it's the Vikings, Seahawks, Jaguars, and Packers, I believe. Now, Minnesota and Kupp, they have some connections there. We've talked about this, and everybody knows it. Kevin O'Connell, Wes Phillips. But at the same time, he's probably going to be the 3rd receiver here and probably the 4th option behind TJ Hawkinson, if we're being honest. Minnesota runs a lot of 2 wide receiver sets, not a ton of 3 wide receiver sets. But I'm sure they would be more open to expanding that a little bit, spread the football around, especially if they add Cooper Kupp. In your opinion, should Minnesota be the front runner, or is another team like Green Bay or Seattle or Jacksonville the front runner because he's just going to get more targets? He's going to be the number 1 or number 2 receiver on those teams.
I, in terms of it, it depends on what Cooper Cup wants. I mean, if Cooper Cup wants to win, I do believe his best options to come here. But I mean, if he is bag chasing, like wants to have a good season and try to get a better contract next year or anything like that, I don't really know if the Vikings are the best option for that. But
Sure.
as we've seen in this offense, though, we do spread the ball around a lot. We give a lot of love to a lot of people.
No doubt.
And what are the chances that we stay healthy at all positions throughout the whole year? It would be nice to add depth. From my perspective, I would love to have Cooper Cup, and it's like ranging. The reports are showing anywhere from like 11 to 15 million, and we have
Yeah.
plenty of cap space this upcoming season. I think I would love that. It would really expand this offense, and like I said, it would add depth because in the NFL it's hard to stay healthy throughout the entire season. So it'd
Yeah.
be nice to have another guy who was a number one option at one point in his career.
Yeah, you bring up the health, and we also need to bring up like the suspension probably coming for Jordan Addison as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's him missing at least 3 games is what it sounds like whenever that does get resolved. So yeah, just add in another veteran receiver, especially if JJ McCarthy's your starter. Um, it's only going to help him develop, and that's the most important thing to Kevin O'Connell and this staff is just developing your young quarterback, and adding a guy like Cooper Cup would really, I think. Like accelerate that a little bit. So I think it'd be a great pickup. I if it was up to 15 million, I probably would be out, but that 11 million number, I have no problem paying that 11, 12 million. And I could see it even being like a 2-year number or a 2-year deal with an out after the first year. See how he plays that first year. And then if they really like the way he plays and you think he's got a lot left in the tank, you can either release him and you can find a new team, or you can restructure him and go from there. And then he's on your team again in 2026. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's another guy. It's another guy coming in with big game experience. We brought in Hargrave, who's been in there a couple times too. I just think that's what we're trying to do: build the culture, winning culture here, and bring guys that know how to do that. And I think he would be a great example of that.
Yeah, and it sounded like we're probably going to get a decision today from Cooper Cup because they reported last night that we should hear something within the next 24 hours. So yeah, if it's the Vikings, I'm sure we'll hop on and talk about it a little bit, but nothing so far. But it's only 10 o'clock in the morning. So, I mean, I'm always itching for news. I'm refreshing X every 15 minutes, waiting for Aaron Rodgers news, and I know I'm not going to get it because he's going to milk this thing out. So, but Cooper Cup would be a great addition and would just add another element to this offense for sure. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, I don't know. Nothing's really changed. Some people are saying it's between Pittsburgh and New York. Schefter and Ian Rappaport have both said it's between Pittsburgh and New York. But then Diana Rossini came out and said there's some talks that they're talking about Aaron Rodgers a little bit, which I don't look at surprising. They're going to talk about the available options. It's just what's going to happen. And yes, it's Aaron Rodgers, but I don't know. I think he's going to the Steelers, but we haven't signed a quarterback too. That's what's kind of in the back of my brain a little bit. We haven't signed another guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're waiting for something to happen on the Aaron Rodgers front, but it's just an interesting situation to say the least.
Yeah, and we really haven't even kicked the tires on another quarterback is what is has me going here.
Yep.
It looks like it sounds like we might have even proposed to him being our backup, and obviously I don't think that's something Aaron's going to want to do unless the competitor in him thinks that in training camp he can beat out JJ, which with how everyone's talking about how the Vikings view JJ McCarthy, I just don't think that that's a possibility. But it's like you said, there's got the fact that we haven't signed another quarterback is a little concerning here that we probably have to be discussed in this because I know Aaron Rodgers sounds like he wants to be here, which why wouldn't he? Like we've said, this has got to be the best opportunity for him, and plus he would get to play in Lambeau Field again, so that's another thing. A lot of people have also discussed maybe he is still considering retirement, which that can't be true because a good point that I've heard is you look at if he retires, it kind of looks like no teams wanted him, and he could have retired 10 days ago on his own terms. So I do believe that Pittsburgh is the next best option. And I think, especially with Russell Wilson going to go visit with the Browns tomorrow, I think it sounds like Russell Wilson might move on from the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah. Speaking of the Steelers, they got quarterback news just now as we're reporting this. It's Mason Rudolph, though, is back to the Steelers. Backup quarterback numbers, 2-year, $8 million deal. That's not starter money, so that shouldn't really make a big difference in this decision. But it's probably just insurance too if Rodgers decides to go somewhere else or decides to retire. But
Yeah, especially with someone who has experience, starter experience, and he has played there for a number of years, so it's a guy they're familiar with.
Exactly. So I saw the Steelers in quarterback right away. I'm like, not just Mason Rudolph. But yeah, it's just very interesting. Marcus Mariota back to the Commanders. That was a name we've talked about. Mac Jones to the 49ers, another name we've kind of dabbled in a little bit. So yeah, the quarterbacks are starting to come off a little bit. There's plenty of options out there yet. Now we're not going to get anyone like starter level unless we look into the trade market. I don't even know who you'd look at if you're looking to trade for a quarterback. It's not like we have much draft compensation to even do that. But yeah, until we sign a quarterback too, or Aaron Rodgers makes a decision, my antennas are going to be up more than anything. Just kind of curious of what's going on. So just another domino we're waiting to fall. The two big ones right now that I'm kind of just waiting for is Cooper Kupp and Aaron Rodgers. I think that's probably the two biggest ones. Now we could add another guard, we could add another safety, we could add another depth piece, but those two are definitely the biggest dominoes to fall. Do you agree with that?
Well, yeah, and another aspect to this is cap hits. I think the Vikings want to know how much because they seem to be in on both. They want to know how much cap space they have left. So yeah, I don't foresee a Viking move until we see what happens with Cooper Kupp and Aaron Rodgers, just so we know what we have to play with. But yeah, it's like we've said, Harrison Smith, he's going to need another safety back there. So yeah, I think once all this plays out, I think we'll definitely be making a move into the safety in the safety room and maybe in the guard play, because like we've said with Dalton Reisner, he can move back to the left side and be more familiar, and I think that would be a good cheap option for the Vikings.
Yeah, I could see Dalton re-signing here. I don't know if he'll be the starter for sure, but I think he'll be able to compete there even if we do sign another guy, because there's like a Brandon Scherf. I don't know if he's going to retire or what's going on there. I still want Tevin Jenkins. People don't like that too much, but if he's cheap, why not? Because if he does get healthy, he's really damn good. Now it sounds like he's struggling with back issues, which is never good for an offensive lineman. But like I said, if you can get him on like a 1-2 year cheap deal, bring him in, because if he's healthy, yeah, you're gonna hit on that. I kind of threw out the name Marcus Williams. He got released yesterday from the Ravens. And like I said, I don't know if he'd want to come back here because of the Minneapolis Miracle. But he's a good, solid veteran safety who's got some potential as well. And he's pretty rangy too, and that's something that we're going to need in the back end of the defense. So there is some depth options, some other pieces that we're still waiting on for sure. And I've kind of mentioned this a little bit too. So like other free agents that we're kind of keeping an eye on, mine are Tevin Jenkins for sure, and then Asante Samuel Jr. Actually, we need to probably add another corner as well. I know people have been saying Asante Samuel, he can't tackle, but he can cover. You can put him in packages on passing downs. He can cover, especially if it's another value deal. And he's in a Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah like special, like a young player coming off injury who's going to probably have a pretty friendly contract. He loves getting deals like that. Are those guys you're keeping an eye on, or is there some other names that you're looking at, Austin?
Oh yeah, for sure. And those guys are good fits that I've been looking at, and I think they would fit well into our system. But I think that it sounds like Shaq Griffin has interest from both sides on coming back. I think that's a name to look at. A guy who's already been in the system. He already knows what's going on. He can come in, plug and play, and I think that would be another good depth piece. And then Dylan S here saying that Theo Jackson probably taking over Cam's spot. That's a very possible option. It's just a matter of we want to add depth to the room. Theo really hasn't gotten like play most of the game type spots a couple times, but I think you want to have another guy in there just to create competition in the room. I think competition makes anyone better.
Yeah,
That's kind of that goes with any position. That's also goes back to the quarterback room. I think that's why the Vikings are looking at all these backup quarterbacks as well can bring can bring a starter level experience, so it can give JJ a little push. But I
yeah,
think in the safety room, that's another thing with Theo Jackson. You want to bring in another guy that can just kind of push them, make them better, or even we find someone else that can outperform Theo. So I think competition's a big point in this.
yeah, no doubt about it. There's a lot of unknown in that room now. Harrison Smith, obviously, he's a well-known commodity, but at the same time, you don't want him playing 95% of the snaps this year. He's not going to want to do it either. It's just the way it is. I love Theo Jackson. I think he's going to play a lot. I think he's going to be really damn good. But after that, you got Josh Metellus, who's not really even a true safety. I mean, he'll play back there, but he will play up in the box a lot. He'll be kind of that rover kind of guy, just roving around on the defense. So I could see them add another safety, but they could all. We've talked about this, the draft as well. Nick Amonwori and Malachi Starks out of Georgia, like those are really, big options now. Um, I don't know if Quasey will do it because he got butchered the first time, but it's always a possibility. So Dylan says, I think he was just stuck as depth due to having Smith and Bynum, but when one of them was out with injury, Theo stepped in and had high PFF scores. Yeah, no doubt. Like I
Yeah,
said, I think
yeah,
he'll
I
be
agree
good.
with that. Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's the thing, and that's why I personally think we're gonna go the draft route.
yeah,
Malachi Starks is the guy I've been talking about. I like him quite a bit.
yeah,
I think having him come in and maybe not even play a lot of the snaps first year, but being there with Harrison Smith, I think could help develop him into being the guy that eventually takes over
no
Harrison
doubt about
Smith
it.
in the future.
No doubt about it. I completely agree. We got just over 600 people watching here. Thank you for tuning in. You see Stead Foods at the bottom there. Use that code VC10. Hit that link. You can also go to That's Badass Wood Art. They're very heavy on X. Follow them, Badass Wood Art. He does amazing custom wood art. His name's Louise. Does a lot of Vikings, Minnesota sports, pretty much anything that you want. If you want like a family portrait, he'll do it. You can use code VC15 at checkout for 15% off your order. You see the skull sign above that Tommy Kramer jersey. That's custom made wood art up there. He does a great job. He will get you going. All right. Looks like we got another comment here. It has to be anyone who fits Flores' system. He'll choose the next safety, I'm sure. As we know, the last Georgia safety was not a fit. Yeah, Lewis was more fit for Ed Donatel's scheme, not Brian Flores. That's just the way it is. But Austin mentioned Malachi Starks. He's a completely different player. I think he'd be great in the Brian Flores system. So you got to. It's hard because it is another Georgia safety, but they're completely different players. So you just got to look at the fit. And I could even see Flores pounding the table for a guy like that. So if he's got Flores' stamp of approval, I think that'll just, um, you know, accelerate that to maybe eventually happen. And I think he'd be available even on a trade. I think the Vikings are going to trade down unless someone they really, really want falls to 24. I can see them trading down, and that could maybe put them more even in the Malachi Starks territory. But then that's so funny because the Vikings traded down from 12 to 32 and got Lewis Seen. So another trade down to grab a Georgia safety, but it is a possibility. It is a possibility.
Well, and you just look at Kirby Smart defensive players; most of them hit.
Yeah.
Lewis was just one of those anomalies that didn't work. He got hurt early in his career. That really killed him when he got hurt in London. But like I said, you look at the rest of that draft class. So dang near the entire Georgia defensive team that year got drafted, and they all like Lewis was the only one that really didn't pan out in that draft. So I just think we can't really look at that. I think that was kind of fluky, and I think the injury really hurt him a lot as well, and it just wasn't a schematic fit.
Yeah, exactly. Just a lot of things that happened early on in his career that just didn't allow him to reach his potential, and maybe he still could, but yeah, no, for sure. Another name that popped up here for backup quarterback. I kind of want your opinion on this. I'm not a huge fan, but I think he'd be a really good mentor to JJ McCarthy. Is Joe Flacco. Um, what do you think of that name?
Well, it's like I've been preaching this for a while. It's someone that's been to the Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl. He knows what it takes. He's a good guy
Yep.
to come in, and he's a quiet guy. He's kind of like the Daniel Jones, how he's not going to create it's not going to create any problems. He's not going to be in the news, but he's just going to be there and help out in practice every day. And then when he steps in, he's shown it. He still throws one of the prettiest passes in the NFL.
Yeah.
He gets in there, especially with our offensive line. If he needs to get in there, I think he'd be able to succeed in a small role, like say injury. He's not going to go in there and steal the job from JJ. Obviously, I don't think there's many guys that will do that,
Yeah.
but in terms of someone that can go in there and help us win a few games, I think he's a good fit for the team.
Yeah, I would like it. It's probably not my top option, but the more of these quarterbacks come off the board, he might be the top option. And it's just the perfect situation for him to come in because he would be a guy. Look at JJ McCarthy. It honestly be like have another assistant coach in that quarterback room, but obviously playing quarterback. But it's interesting because I wonder if Kevin O'Connell and him have a relationship at all because they were in the same draft. It was 2008 draft.
Yeah.
So that'd be kind of interesting to see if they have a relationship or anything like that. But
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like a Josh McCown. Like
yeah.
you have like a Josh McCown back there, like how the Eagles had for a while. Where yeah, like you said, he's a good coaching piece. He's going to be in there. He's going to be verbal and
Mhm.
helping with the development with JJ McCarthy.
Exactly. All right. I asked people to ask some questions here on Twitter, but looks like we've got to most of them. Average sports fan says, is getting Cooper Cup realistic? I think we both said it's realistic, and it's definitely up there. It could happen, to be honest with you. We talked about it matters what Cooper Cup wants. Like if he wants to come to a winning culture and he wants to just fit in, get back with Kevin O'Connell, but still get a good amount of targets. Yeah, he can come here. That's the great option. But if he still wants to be like a number one guy, this spot is probably not high on his list. But he says, say we do get him, do we have one of, if not the most dangerous offenses in the NFL? What do you think, Austin?
Well, I think even without Cooper Cup, we have one of the most dangerous offenses. But I think you bring in Cooper Cup, and that's gonna really spread out the field. It's gonna be hard to double cover JJ McCarthy having four weapons like Addison, Hawkinson, JJ, obviously, and then you bring in Cooper Cup. And Cooper Cup does really well in the red zone, which has kind of been not Addison's greatest offensive feat, but I mean he is young, he will get better, and I think someone like Cup could come in and help Addison and be a mentor to him, especially young in his career.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because that room is pretty young. I mean, Justin Jefferson's the veteran of that room, and he's 25 years old.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great point. Just add another veteran. I mean, Speedy Naylor is in his fourth year. Jordan Addison will be in his third. So yeah, it makes sense to bring a guy in like that, for sure. All right, Minnesota North Star. Why haven't the Vikings signed another quarterback if the Rodgers stuff is being more reported that he's choosing between the Steelers and Giants? Why haven't the Vikings ended the speculation, signed another QB in a dwindling market? Jones, Brissett, etc. have signed. Well, I think Daniel Jones they put out a strong offer to Daniel Jones. It's not like they didn't try to sign Daniel Jones, and I think he was their number one option. And now that didn't happen, they're just taking their time with the process. I think a little bit, just trying to figure out exactly what they want to do, and kind of just go from there. But when people ask like why haven't the Vikings came out and just solidified JJ as their starter, I'm like, I don't expect them to do that. Like it'll be his first full year starting. You kind of want him to earn the job in like training camp and the off season a little bit. Like you just don't want to flat out hand it to him. I think it'd be fine, but they're not going to come out and just solidify JJ right away. Especially it's free agency. You know, anything can happen. So I don't really get that point when people ask why they haven't came out and like reported that JJ's their guy. I don't really understand it. And some of the big names have said they're leaning that direction. Like Adam Schefter said, all signs are pointing. JJ McCarthy's the guy. Minnesota's gearing up. Like he's going to be the guy. What do you kind of think about why the Vikings haven't really ended the speculation on that front?
Well, it's kind of like I was saying earlier. I do think that we are in on it, and to some extent, I just don't think that we're high on it. I don't think he'll choose us, but I think in terms of like the guys that I think that are number one options to come in and be the backup aren't really hot commodities either. So they haven't visited teams like Minshew and Winston haven't really been out there visiting with teams. So I don't think there's really a need to push for it right away. I
Yep.
think we're just gonna wait and see how the Aaron Rodgers things plays out, and maybe we are in on it, like we've been saying. So we just kind of let that play out. Don't rush into anything. But I think as soon as Aaron Rodgers is off the table, I think it's going to be pretty quick. I think it'll be within a day or two that we have a backup in here in Minnesota.
Yep. And there's a list right now. I'm gonna read off the list, and you tell me a name or two that intrigues you the most. And we've talked about this again, but just to reiterate, and if a new name pops up that we haven't thought about, um, just let me know like a name or two that you'd really like. So obviously you got Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Gardner Minshew, Trey Lance, Taylor Heineke, Drew Lock, Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston, Carson Wentz, Case Keenum, Cooper Rush, Bailey Zappi.
Well, just a name that's intriguing there is Case Keenum, obviously, but
Yeah.
I I don't think that's a realistic. He would bring in veteran presence. He has been in the league for a long time, but I've been really preaching on Gardner Minshew and Jameis
Yeah.
Winston a lot. Those are two guys I love. They've been around in a lot of organizations. It's not
Yep.
like they've just been the one or two that's been with like one team their whole career. They've been around different systems. They know how the NFL works. I think they could be good people to have behind them.
Yeah.
But then obviously I think a guy like Mac Jones is really interesting because he's still young.
Yeah.
And someone like KOC might like that and see that as an opportunity to maybe work with him and maybe bring out his full potential because he was a really high draft pick out of Alabama.
Yeah. But unfortunately, the 49ers picked him up last night.
Oh shoot. Yeah, my bad there. I
Yeah.
saw that blanked my mind
No,
there.
no, you're good. Yeah, Mac Jones was near the top of my list as well, and it makes sense that he went to Kyle Shanahan because they got similar
Yeah.
systems. So that does make a lot of sense. The only other name that I do like Gardner Minshew, I like Jameis Winston. Um, I've kind of been a Drew Lock truther my whole life. Well, not my whole
Yeah.
life, but like since he's gotten in the league. Um, but I don't know. He's got a huge arm. He's talented, just has never been able to put it all together. So maybe that does fit the billing for Kevin O'Connell. But I'm looking for a guy that has been like a spot starter in the league. So that makes sense with Gardner Minshew,
Yeah.
Jameis Winston, a guy who can come in if he needs to win a ball game or two. But another name that fits that is Cooper Rush. Um, I think would be a solid guy. Nothing flashy, nothing too exciting, but another guy who's just like a professional, comes to work, does his job. And I think that'd be really good to have JJ McCarthy in that same room as Cooper Rush. Um, but yeah, I mean, not a ton of exciting names, but you're not going to get exciting names with a backup quarterback. That's just the way it is.
But yeah, and I think this kind of answers the question too. Look at all those names that are out there. Those are all viable options. Those are all options of guys that have been around the league. So I think that adds to why the Vikings really haven't been out there. I think maybe they're doing their due diligence, but
Yep.
yeah, Drew Lock's an interesting one. He has the big arm. Had a couple big games in New York. He was out of the draft. He was my big name that I was high on. I was high on him, and
Yeah.
I obviously I wasn't really correct there, but I really do like him. I did like him, and I think he still has more potential. But yeah, the crazy depth that's out there in the quarterback free agency is I think that's the biggest answer to that question there to why we really haven't done anything.
Yeah. No doubt. For sure. Um, Maybe you've seen this tweet of mine. I just tweeted about a half hour ago. Maybe you haven't. So since the last 25 years, the Green Bay Packers have had 5 quarterback start games for them. 5.
Yeah.
Do you want to guess how many the Vikings have had?
Oh, 23.
24.
Yeah.
Great guess. 24 quarterbacks in 25 years. That's almost a quarterback a year. So I'm just trying to make this point. Like, the revolving door has not worked well for the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, never won a Super Bowl. Now, the year we got Brett Favre, we made it to the NFC Championship game. Maybe Aaron Rodgers could do something similar. But aren't we looking for a quarterback that can be the guy for the next 10 to 15 years? And
Well, yeah. I think that's
yeah,
a big part of it. What are the chances we get lightning in the bottle again? I
yeah,
mean,
yep,
it's fun. It's fun to think about it. The guy was our rival for many years, and we sat and watched him play. We know what he used to do.
yep,
It's a matter of how lucky we can get with him. Obviously, we have the offensive line, but yeah, it's like you said, we need a quarterback that's going to be stable, that we know is going to be there from year to year. I think that's why we just have to move on to the JJ McCarthy and just have him hopefully be our guy. That so when teams think about the Vikings, just like how teams used to think about the Packers and be like, oh, associated him with Aaron Rodgers,
yeah.
or teams like you think of Pittsburgh Day, you think of Big Ben.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Vikings want that guy to where like, oh, Minnesota Vikings, yeah, JJ McCarthy.
Exactly. And we haven't had that in a long, long, long time. And it's long overdue. Mr. Dot says Aaron Rodgers needs the Vikings, but the Vikings, yeah, big no. Agreed. Aaron Rodgers
Yeah.
wants to come to the Vikings. I do not blame him whatsoever. It makes all the sense in the world. Does it make that much sense on the Vikings part? I mean, it could, but at the end of the day, I feel like they're going to talk about it. They're going to go over all the pros and cons, and it's going to be a no. And it's probably the right decision. But Paul Allen, voice of the Vikings, he kind of went on a little bit of a rant last night, just commenting and posting regarding Aaron Rodgers. He ain't Favre. This isn't 09. Instead of wasting thought or emotions on this, let's instead honor Hitman for getting to season 14 during his Hall of Fame career. Amen. 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 Yeah,
Yeah.
no, like you said, what's the chances we're going to hit lightning in the bottle again? He's going to be 42 years old. All of them likely, he probably doesn't even make it through the season, or he just does not play that well. That's the better chance of happening. Now, is there a chance that could happen with JJ McCarthy as well? Maybe. But at the same time, I trust Kevin O'Connell with a 22-year-old, half the age of Aaron Rodgers, to come in, been in the Viking system. Now he's been rehabbing, but he's still been in the Viking system. The Vikings love him. Do they think he's ready? I don't know, but it sounded like they thought he was ready last year, and they did not expect it. So I expect JJ McCarthy to, burst through those expectations and be ready week one, and be the starter all season and be damn good as well.
Yeah, the only way that something like this happens is if they don't think that his knee is healthy enough to proceed with the season. But all reports are showing that he's coming back strong from
Yep.
injury and he's gaining all this weight back. Everyone was worried about him losing that 20 pounds after the injury, but that is very normal for that to happen. And then he's already gaining most of it back. So it's like, again, it's a big thing is if do they believe that he's progressing well from injury? I think we do in free agency here, I think will actually show us what is actually going on at TCO. But like I said, all the reports are showing that he's coming back strong from this, and he was more than likely gonna win the job to start the year last year with Darnold, if not take it in like week 3 or 4. So I think that's it's got to be JJ's time. It's got to be JJ's time.
Agreed. He doesn't really have a name, but his name is just a jet. I'm guessing for Justin Jefferson. Aaron Rodgers isn't a good mentor.
I
Yeah, I
I
can see
disagree with
that,
that,
but
but you look at Jordan Love, and
yeah,
he's had nothing even since leaving the Packers, nothing but good to say there.
yeah,
And Jordan Love has had nothing to say good to say about Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if I truly believe that. I think the negative aspect of Aaron Rodgers is going to be all the baggage he's going to come with. He's going to be on Pat McAfee every week. Our team is going to be in the spotlight. We're going to be talked
sure.
about everywhere. We're going to be in a microscope. I think that's the biggest problem with
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers.
agreed. I don't think he's as bad of a person everyone who makes it out to be. Um, he does come with baggage, like you said. There's going to be baggage, and that just happens sometimes with big name quarterbacks. Um, like you said, I don't know if I buy that he is necessarily isn't a good mentor. mentor, but at the same time, yeah, it kind of depends on like if you can handle that personality, I think you're going to get along with him really great. But if you're a guy that can't, yeah, it could be on the opposite side of the spectrum. Um, but I guess I don't really buy that either. Um, I just don't think it's a great fit here. I, I don't know. Like could you change my mind? Maybe, but as of now, like we were just saying 2 minutes ago, I think it's time for JJ McCarthy. If his knee looks good, if they trust him, just go all in on it. The roster's ready, obviously.
I actually think it's about as good a fit as it could be for Aaron Rodgers to be here. I just don't think he has it in him anymore.
Yeah,
I think if you were talking Aaron Rodgers of 3 years ago, then I would be all in. It's just,
no
I
doubt.
think we have everything around that would actually work with Aaron Rodgers if he still had the ability.
Yeah,
I fear that I fear he's just gotten too old. That Achilles injury affected him too much, and coming into a new system, having to relearn a system and being around new people, I think would be tough for someone at 42 years old.
yeah,
I just don't think that it would work out in the best favor. Do I believe we would be above 500 team? Maybe, but I think we would be scraping the edge. I think it would be like a 9-8 season with Aaron Rodgers, and it'd be questionable if we make the playoffs. Whereas the upside with JJ McCarthy was the ceiling's way higher. I think he has the it factor, and he's won at every level he's been at. He knows what it takes to win. I just think it's time to move on. It's time to move on to JJ McCarthy.
yeah. And this has been their plan. This has been their plan from the get go. Build the roster around a rookie scale quarterback. Get him as comfortable as you can. Get all these pieces. Build a strong defense. Build a strong offensive line. Get them weapons all over the field. And that's exactly what they've done. But I continue to say, like, this Aaron Rodgers rumors and stuff like that, it was going to happen regardless. I mean, it's a perfect situation here for him. The rumors, I don't know if they're true, but at the same time, they were going to happen because it is a good fit here. And there's always always going to take the same path as Brett Favre, Packers, Jets, Vikings. So I think people are trying to push it kind of for that reason alone because it'd be a great headline.
Even Brett Favre's pushing it.
Yeah, even Brett Favre's pushing it. It'd be a great headline, great story, but don't know if it'll happen. Anything you else want to add here, Austin?
No, I think we've hit everything from just about every angle on this. I don't think there's too much more.
Yeah, I'm just always scrolling to see if there's any new things coming out. Nothing as of now. But again, it's only 10:30 in the morning. It should hear some Cooper Cup news hopefully by the end of the day. Maybe Aaron Rodgers news. John Frischella, he kind of had a tidbit a little bit down here that his Aaron Rodgers like indecisiveness, ghosting, not making a decision is like pushing some teams away. Like they don't want to deal with it. And I wonder if the Vikings are part of that, or if it's maybe the Giants and the Steelers as well.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm kind of going, maybe he's just going to retire. Who knows? He might just retire.
Yeah, guys, I was saying earlier, I don't see that because then it kind of looks like no team really actually had interest and it was all false news.
Yeah.
I think if he was going to retire, it would have been pre-free agency, so it was on his own terms.
Yeah, but he was technically mentored by Brett Favre as well.
Yeah.
So who knows? It could be a topic for the next. Who knows how long it's going to take until the Vikings sign a backup quarterback or Aaron Rodgers makes a decision. We can speculate all we want. No one really knows what's happening. I don't think so. Austin, appreciate you hopping on.
Yep.
We will see you guys in the next one. Just over 900 of you here. Again, if you're on X, Twitter, follow us on Viking Central. Just keep up to date over there. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're not, go over there, subscribe to us. Great way to support us. That's Badass Sport on the bottom. Use code VC15 at checkout. You can find them on X, but also Stead Foods is another one of our sponsors. Go over to that link down there, scrolling across the bottom of the screen. steadfoods.com/Viking Central. Use code VC10. We will keep you guys up to date on what's going to happen. But at the same time, we don't know what's going to happen, especially with Aaron Rodgers. So it's going to be interesting a few more days, maybe. I mean, hopefully something happens today, but we'll see. Viking Central again. Thanks, Austin. Skol.